How's everybody doing tonight? As always, PBO struggling tonight. Got my little walk on today. Trying to lose a little weight. Give me a one in the chat if you can hear me. Give me a one in the chat if you can hear me. Shout out to Mr. O with the info. Shout out to him. Thanks for joining me. Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Let's go and get started. Let me get my. I think I'm gonna switch that a little bit. I'm switching slides on the fly. Yeah, let's do it. Let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, we rolling. Let's see. I need to go and get two monitors. I got monitors. I just ain't never hooked up. I need to go in and hook them up. So I'd be happy if you share the screen. Shout out to Ben Tech, always supporting. Thanks for joining. Shout out to Cam. Gonna call him Mr. AI, doing great things. Shout out to GRC Mafia in the building. I always look forward to videos. You know how we doing. If you got any questions, just put them in the chat. Cybersecurity or tech. We can get to it. Once again, yeah, if you got any questions, and just drop them in the chat. Tech or cybersecurity or GRC, my specialty. About to get started. Hopefully everybody's having a good day. Hopefully everybody have a good hump day tomorrow. So once again, getting it going. Whew, I got to get it together. So you see it right there, NIST 1835, which is a weird number, zero trust, right? There's a 207, I think is an overview. We're going to look at this, the 1800 series, and we see it right there. Targeted specific cybersecurity challenges in the public and private sector. There are practical, user-friendly guidance that facilitates the adoption of standard basis approaches to cybersecurity. We're going to actually look at the document. So now we're going to get our hands dirty. We're going to talk about implementing zero trust. A lot of times, especially on the internet, people talk at such a high level, but what do you do when you roll your sleeves up and you're actually talking about implementing stuff and going on the keyboard and building stuff, right? I really love building stuff. So what would that look like? Of course, we're not building anything tonight, but what does that look like? And that's what this document's about. Here, I think I'm going to put that link in the chat. I think I can do that. Let's see if it let me put the link in the chat. I need to see if it's going to get rid of it. But that's what the 1800 series is, right? They're targeted specifically for cybersecurity challenges in the public and private sector that are practical, user-friendly guidelines that facilitate the adoption of standards based on approach to cybersecurity. And I think a lot of times when you look at documents, especially from this, a lot of times they're high level. So once again, these are talking about how we're going to actually implement it. Most people know I'm an AWS guy, so I pulled out the AWS implementation for zero trust, and we're going to kind of drill on that. But I put the link of the documents in there. They had Azure, Google, AWS, Okta. I think IBM was in there. So they hit a lot of vendors. And that's one thing I do like about NIST. Once again, they bring into the whole ecosystem. So they're going to do private, public, education. All the vendors are lining up, trying to add value because they want some of that government funding. And if you see in the abstract, zero trust architecture enables security authorized access to enterprise resources that are distributed across on-prem and multiple cloud. I think multi-cloud is it. And you see in there, it talks about the NIST 800-207. I think I did 3 videos on that. That's once again talking about the overview and kind of the theoretical part about it. So we're going to drill down and once again talk about the implementation of that. Look at a few things. Obviously, I cut this out from my older slide. That's a little bit about me. Most people know me. Fresh Block Ops, PBO. I started programming in COBOL in high school in 1984. I got a bachelor's of computer science in 1990. I got an MBA in 1995. I worked at DOD as a consultant for 10 years instead of Indiana for 10 years, and I taught at a community college for 7. That community college, it wasn't full-time. I did it part-time at night, trying to give back to the community. So trying to bring some of those skills to YouTube. So Zero Trust actually was mentioned in President Biden's executive order, which I thought was different, right? So they start actually mentioning architecture and executive orders, which I thought was weird. But I think United States trying to get serious about cybersecurity. So if it's coming from the top, right, it's going to roll down. So look at that executive summary in 2021. They actually mentioned Zero Trust. A lot of times when you do policies and procedures, a lot of times you got to put executive orders where it was mentioned. So that's kind of what facilitated that slide. Let's keep rolling. The federal government, here it is, must adopt the best security practices, advance towards zero trust architecture to accelerate the movement of secure cloud services, software as a service infrastructure and platform, develop a plan to implement zero trust architecture, which would incorporate migration steps in NIST. The migration cloud technology shall adopt security trust architecture as practicable. The CISA, which this current administration is cutting CISA a little bit, shall modernize the current cybersecurity program, service, and capabilities to fully function with cloud computer environment with zero trust. So I just looked through the, once again, the executive order, just kind of pulled out some places because I've never seen that executive order where they actually mention the technology. Usually they talk secure or modernization, but they said zero trust. The security models with a set of design principles coordinated with cybersecurity and strategy based on acknowledgement that threats exist both inside and outside traditional networks. Right, because zero trust means you validate everything and trust nothing. So once again, it was in the executive order, which I thought that was super unusual. Shout out to my man Jim R for joining us. I then become a JCL Jackie Emerson. Facts, man. I did JCL for a summer internship. I actually had to put the tapes that the JCL reads. So facts, man. I've been in this game a very long time. So it's been pretty good to me though. But this job market is rough out here. So let's talk about the guiding principles. Verify explicitly. Always authenticate and authorize based on available data points. User identity, location, device health, service or workloads, data for classification or anomalies. Usually it's privileged access. Limit users with just in time or just enough access. Risk-based adaptive policies. Policies are real big, and we got some diagrams we're going to dip in there. Assume breach. Minimize your blast radius for breaches and prevent lateral movement by segmenting access by network, users, device, application. Verify all sessions are encrypted end-to-end. Using analytics to give visibility, drive threat detection, and improve defense. So those are kind of the 3 big mantras of zero trust. Shout out to my man Dave. Definitely one of the best auditors out there. Trust nothing too. It's in there. Trust nothing. One of the top auditors out there. Definitely be checking him out. Hopefully his studying is going well. Everybody's studying for something. So hopefully his study is going well. I pulled this from Microsoft. I'm really not a Microsoft guy, but I really love this zero trust because it's not a big bang. It's not going to be you're going to buy one product and it's going to do. It's levels. I always say it's levels to this, right? So level 1 for them is the traditional on-prem identities with static rules, some SSO. Limited visibilities is available into device device compliance, cloud environments, and login. Usually kind of a flat network. Then the advanced part of that is, and I think a lot of people are here already. In this stage, organization must begin zero trust journey, making progress in a few key areas. Hybrid identity, finely tuned access policies, granting access to data, apps, and networks. A lot of people run Microsoft Defender, Microsoft Intune. They start giving you this, right? Devices are registered and compliant to IT policies, right? The whole Microsoft Defender, you register the device, your laptop, right? You can check the health, you can check the location of it. You can check what OS, if it's not at a proper OS version, you can block it from logging on. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Networks are being segmented and cloud threats protection is in place. Analytics are starting to be used to assess user behavior and proactively identify threats. Right. So once again, Microsoft Defender. And when I did this video and I ripped all those slides out, I did Cisco Duo. It's inexpensive. It talks about the health. It talks about the session you're doing. It checks and see what version of OS. If it's too late, it can force you to download the OS to get up there, or it could just block you from getting there, right? So those are some of the things that are coming into play. And optimal cloud identity and real-time analytics dynamically gain access to application workloads and network. I don't really see that a ton. I see the identity. I see the segmentation of the network, but dynamically, just in time, we talked about a little bit, just enough. I don't really see that a lot. The part I do see a lot, if you're using Access or Windows, right, you got a sudo or switch a user, assume it, right? That is kind of dynamic, right? But it's not at that, I would think, at that optimal level. Then access decisions are governed by cloud security policy engines. Sharing is secure with encryption and tracking. I think encryption is pretty good. Most apps know that they need to be a TLS at a TLS version. Once again, we decent with encryption. Trust has been removed from the network entirely, and micro cloud perimeters, micro segmentation, encryption are in place. We're still doing a ton of network security. Really, that's still the backbone. We haven't removed that type of security quite yet. And we'll talk about AVA, AWS version of getting rid of the VPN and talking about doing that. I don't really know anybody actually getting rid of the VPN quite yet, but we'll talk a little bit about that. But I think people are trying to get to that level. Automatic threat detection and response is implemented. I think a lot of times, once again, with the Defender family, they're checking for exploits. A lot of people doing MITRE. A lot of people are doing Splunk, Sentinel, CloudWatch, CloudTrail. Both of those, when you got in there, then of course, Microsoft got Amazon detection. It'll look in there and figure out if somebody's, the way they're moving on your network, it could be a foreign ATP threat inside your network, and it can look at how it's moving to figure out if it's a threat. Once again, that's the MITRE TTP, right? How the bad guys moving, and how can you detect if the bad guys are on your network, right? That's optimal, top of the line. And there's a lot out there. If you got money, you can get there, right? So this is kind of, once again, I kind of like this. We got the identities there, policies, and we're going to talk about the different policies. Then the back end, how do you get to those apps, protect those apps? Once again, in the front end, that's why I usually talk about identity provider, multi-factor authentication, user session and risk, device risk and compliance, and device identity, right? Because you want to separate all of those, because a lot of times if somebody took over your laptop with malware or rootkit, if they got your laptop, they got all your identity, right? Or if they stole your session in Russia, right, they could actually replicate what you're doing. But now if it's, okay, they got your session, but we know this is not your device they're pinging from, right? Or they're not in the right location. Or once again, they didn't do MFA, right? Or this machine, when we looked at it, it checks the risk. This user's not in the state they said they were in. this user OS is not at the right level, and there's not a token on this machine, so we don't believe that this machine is the proper machine that this guy should be logging in, right? So once again, that gives us user risk and session risk. And with our policy controls, we can figure out if we're going to let them in the back end, we're going to let them in HR, we're just going to block them, right? And send an email to the security team to go get them, right? So these are the things, once again, from the front end identity, from zero trust before you even log into your network. I think people will start doing more. Like we said, trust nothing, right? So if it's not the right machine, the right OS, the right location, we're not going to let the person in. So there's my man, trust nothing. I was at a cyber summit a few weeks ago, DC. Karen Henry spoke, and she wanted to blow up the RMF. She mentioned zero trust. RMF is kind of outdated. I can see that. Zero trust is the way. Okay, shout out to me. Shout out to you. You passed. Congratulations. Which one did you pass? I think I know what it is. I don't want to say shout out to my man Ty. I was checking on the old guy. Let me know if it's the one I think you passed. Dave, shout out to him. GRC is a business driver. Most see it as a call center. Short and sweet article advocating. Okay, everybody check the article out. Yeah, everybody I work with says it's a call center, right? So we definitely need to kind of change that motto. So once again, shout out to my man. He's doing those big certs. I need to get on board. I passed some smaller AWS stuff, but I need to get up there with the CISAs. That's what I thought. Shout out to him. That's a big cert. Like I said, shout out to B-Dubs. I need to get on that CISSP. I've been talking about that for a couple of years. But no, that's great. That's definitely a great cert. Definitely on the 8570. I think it's level 2 on the 8570 and not 3. But no, that's definitely a big cert. That's definitely on my list, my top 5 that I need to get. Yep, shout out to him. So once again, we were talking about identities from zero trust. Your provider, we know MFA, everybody's got it. How do you come up with the user session and risk? We know your location. We got a token on your machine. A lot of times, if you use AWS Cognito, it can tell with what IP you coming from, the location. It can give you a risk of this user. If it sees that in the blacklist, it has risk services that are automatically built in when you log in. And the device risk, is it up to date? Is it patched? Is it any weird software running on there, right, that we can see? Right. Then 2 is the big thing is taking the inventory, trying to keep an inventory. A lot of people know I used to work for the status consultant. It was like 40,000 endpoints. So trying to keep track of all those sometimes can be a monster. Pre-zero trust, once again, this is the front end. We're just going to touch on this. Verify the identity, strong identity, password eliminated in favor of biometrics. I don't really know anybody doing just strictly biometrics, but that's coming. I'm kind of a little weird about people taking my fingerprint. If y'all get hacked and my fingerprint's out there. Access to application and data is limited to a minimum required to perform your job. Right, just verify the identity. Verify your device. Client devices health is enforced. Unmanaged devices have secure alternative access methods. Users don't have administrative permission on their client devices. Right, verify the access. The internet is the default network in all Microsoft locations. Network segmentations are built in on the role and function. Verify the service. Application conditions are enforced. A lot of times when you do Microsoft, right, they got conditional access. Applications as a service are accessible directly from the internet and not going through a VPN. So on the front end, those are the things we're checking from zero trust before we let you log in, before we verify. Shout out to my man Dave for passing and trust nothing, verify everything, right? So that's kind of what that's sitting on. Then once again, in the front end, access conditions. Like we talked about, your location, the device health, your users, the risk, and all that tells you if you're getting exceptions or if you get blocked, right? Allow access, block access. and the things you can get to on the back end. Continuous validation while access is granted. Right. So when you log in, you're going to MFA. And once again, are you in the state you're supposed to be in? Right. Are you logging in with the proper device? We call it agency or corporate owned equipment. We're not letting you log in from your home machine. We don't trust you like that. Right. So users and applications, what can you get to? Once again, the front end, unprivileged till you log in, and these are the things we're looking from a conditional access to make sure you can get in from a zero trust perspective. We're just going to hit the high notes. We talked about that. Identities, devices, telemetry. We log in everything so we can figure out what's going on with your equipment. You see there, users, device, application, service, and access patterns. Least privilege, right? We don't want you to be overprivileged. So if you get compromised, we don't want to give the bad guys extra apps or extra things to do. And two is we want to do least privilege. Give you just what you need to do your job. Let's see. Oh, shout out to my man. Salute to the Billions for joining me. Definitely one of the top data engineers making big moves. Glad he could join us. God, I appreciate you. Catch up 2 times more piece. I appreciate you. Let's see. I took the ISAC beta yesterday. Okay. Hopefully you passed on that. Shout out to Regine for joining. Okay, so we're going to just look at the production VPC of both public and private. Us is standard VPC network for networking. There's a management VPC as a public subnet, 3 private subnets. You can remote in using SSH and cloud components. There's private subnets for satellite tier domain controllers. Each VPC has 2 availability zones with redundancy. So once again, it's just a standard setup. Just talking what that will look like for zero trust. So if you look to the right, that's the what on-prem will look like when you take it to the cloud. If you look at the bottom, that's your management VPC. You see Red Hat, DC tier, your security management tier. And a lot of times too is you're going to send out your network through your management tier because you're looking at the package, you're checking for any bad locations, any bad IPs, and once again run them through your SecOps before you roll it up to your production. And you see the sample services on the back end people can get through that endpoint. DynamoDB database, S3 is a file system object, CloudWatch is local logging, Lambda is dynamic programming you can load, Java, JavaScript, PHP. KMS is key management store. Kinesis is a data stream, usually for data engineers. Shout out to my man before the Billions. So that's kind of what a standard setup would look like in a zero trust. We got another picture of that, a little easier. So you got your management account, stuff flows in. You got your networking hub. And your spoke account is your individual divisions of controlling that. So that probably will be accounting, operations if you have it. I work for the Department of Revenue, so one of those will be tax collections, marketing and accounting. A lot of times we put those in the same account because you want those, once again, those are least privileged. So if something happens to an account, it's just accounting, it's not tax. It's just tax and not accounting, right? So you kind of make sure if one of those accounts get hacked, that blast radius is small, right? And two, remember, we got all the other 4 things we check before we let in, right? Your device, your location, your session, where you're located at, or is your machine running the proper OS and MFA, right? So those are standard things we're going to let you log in before we let you go to the proper account and do some work. So if there's any questions. I have questions about VP. I'll drop the link. Let's see. Drop the link if anybody want to come up. So the other screen, we'll flow back to that real quick. See where here's the security policies and evaluation. These are the security policies in AWS. that's going to help you validate that. Identity-based policies, resource-based policies, permission boundaries, organizational SCPs, right, which is service control policy, access control list, and session policies, right? So identity attach what users and groups you belong to and what roles. Resources is policies on S3 bucket or databases. What resources can you get to? I got the identity, but even though I can get to database, what tables can I get to? What columns can I get to? Right. So we talk about least privilege. Just because you get to the database don't mean you get to see everything in the database. Right. The permission boundaries are if I'm a test user, I might let you test in this small segment at a admin level. But if you try to leave the test bed, you can only do it in that boundaries, right? So that's how they control at that level. See, SCPs or service control policies. Like shout out to my man before the billions. He might be in his test area. In his test area, he can only spin up small databases, small EC2s because we're on a budget, right? If he's in production, he can only spin up these type of EC2s, these type of databases. He can only use these five services, right? So that's how we control that. Once again, we're talking about that least privilege. Let me see. I think he's coming up. If I can figure out how to work it. Shout out to SJ. Can you hear me? SJ, can you hear me? I don't think I can hear you, so I don't know if you need to. Oh, I see you before the bill's coming up. SJ, you got a question for me, or you still working on your setup there? I'm sure I passed. I found where we'll get around. Shout out. PBO needs to be working to the internal revenue, the external revenue service. So I'm just letting my man SJ figure out what's going on with his mic real quick. Let me know, SJ. So let's keep going. Once again, those policies. Here's some of the standard policies. Once again, inside AWS. And once again, Azure's got a lot of the same policies. Google's got a lot of the same policies. I've been peeking in the Oracle's cloud a little bit. They got a lot of the same stuff, right? So that's how they're rolling. Oh, I think SJ gonna come back in a minute. Getting it together. So let's roll. So let's see. Oh, yep. So we were talking about those policies. And we were talking about guard duty, some of the service, continuous monitoring to let you look at the VPC flow logs in the cloud trail, log records. It looks for feed, signature, and anomaly detection, machine learning. For AWS Cloud, guard duty also helps you protect your data, continuously monitors profiles. Like we were talking about those services, top of the pyramid, helps you find stuff, right? That's one of the services. That's a little pricey though. Shout out to my man before the billions with the fresh cut. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, PBO? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, man.
It's
Yeah.
good, man.
You got any questions while we rolling? What was your VBC questions? We can jump onto them if you're ready.
Yeah, man, I have been kind of going through it. I'm new to AWS. As I've been telling you, I've been learning more about it. My company is using AWS heavily now.
Mm-hmm.
So I was tasked with, we were getting a lot of errors because some of our AWS glue jobs were
Okay.
failing.
Okay. Okay.
And they kept failing because there's so many jobs updating multiple different tables within our
Mm-hmm.
database,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and we're running out of IPs. So
Okay.
I was trying to see, like, so we already have an existing VPC.
Mm-hmm.
I created a new subnet,
Okay.
and that subnet has more IPs allocated to it, but I'm still having an issue with getting that connected through, like, I'm learning about like the route tables and
Yeah.
a whole bunch of different things just to be able to get this connected to like our AWS glue jobs, because like in AWS glue you have something called a data connector or a
Mm-hmm.
data connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I have created the VP, well, they had the VPC already created a new subnet with more IPs, trying to allocate like a, just do a test data connection
Mm-hmm.
to that new test subnet,
Mm-hmm.
still not getting rid of the errors. So
Can
I
you
don't know
ping
if I'm.
you can ping stuff on the subnet though, right? What's
So
I mean,
I looked into that, right? So like the way they say that you can do it is through EC2, like an
yep. Yeah.
EC2 instance. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have access to EC2, and I don't know if it's worth asking for access just to get it to EC2 to ping a test subnet. You know what I mean?
Ooh. Yeah, if look up, and we can do it offline. There's a flow analyzer and an IAM analyzer that
Mhm.
checks your VPC to make sure it's kind of flowing correctly. And is it a networking error? Because that's kind of weird if you could get to it. I would be thinking maybe you running out because you said databases or you got the right,
Mm.
RCUs and WCUs. I don't know what database. You don't have to mention it, but
Yeah.
sometimes if you don't have them set up correctly, right, you can run out of reads and writes on those.
Yeah, so essentially the error just talks about the subnet running out of IPs. Like maybe it's a resource allocation issue.
Mhm.
It only happens on like weekends, but it's something I'm working on. I've been working on it for like a few weeks now, and I'm like, this is a lot, you know?
Yeah, is it a big job y'all running?
It's a lot. It's a lot of runs. So it is a big job. It is only failing on like one particular database. Not like it's not all the databases. Most of the jobs run successfully, but for some reason, when there's a lot of jobs running at the same time, it consumes all the IPs, and there's not enough resources to go around. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
and I'm not that familiar with glue. I just been reading about glue. It's funny you mentioned that from
right.
that. So it's just weird that it would be using extra IPs though.
Yeah, man, it's frustrating, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of
Yeah.
those things where you like, "Okay, I'm researching it." I use Copilot and
You
ChatGPT and all these things, and I'm
you
like, "What?"
use Q Developer. Amazon's got this thing called Q Developer, and I'll
I
shoot it
saw that. And I
between on
saw,
LinkedIn,
mhm.
and they've been doing it specifically for integrations and specifically for glue.
Mm.
I'll shoot
Imma
it to
see if
you.
I have. Go ahead.
I'll I'll shoot you some stuff on LinkedIn after the
Okay.
stream because they were walking through it and talking about like you talking about we were having these problems or it's scaling up to this and Q Developer was kind of walking through it as kind of
Okay.
like peer program. I don't know if I don't think it's super expensive, but I'll shoot you that because it was funny. They specifically were talking about data engineering issues with it.
Mhm.
What's up, Jim? Glad you could join us.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes, sir.
You crystal clear.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I'm set up here at my mother's basement here in Michigan, so
Okay, okay.
fun stuff. In fact, I'm at a pool table.
Okay. That's cool. Here, let me hit a couple more of these slides real quick. Once again, guard duty. Remember, I was talking about intelligence in there. I should have copied some of that down. Security groups. That's their micro segmentation. So a lot of times you have a web server security group and an app server security group. So on your app server security group, you can say I only can talk to the web security group, right? So that's how you get your micro segmentation. This segment can only talk to this segment, and this segment can only talk about to this segment, right? So if a bad guy gets there, he can't go laterally, right? If it's in a web server, he can't go directly to the database, right? You have to have special privileges and actually get on a special subnet to be able to go right to the database. So that's where that micro segmentation comes in as part of AWS, and you see it here. Security groups calling other security groups. My man was talking about his VBC with his route tables. They can get a little issues with those route tables. So this can talk to this and only that can route to that. So
Yeah.
shout out to my man Dewan Lightfoot, man. A lot of times you almost have to be a network engineer when you start playing with some of the subnets. So
Man. It is, it's a lot to learn. That's, I'm a lifelong learner, so it's a good thing, right?
It sucks when you get 60 though, man. I be struggling. But nah, you're right. And that's the thing, the good and the bad thing about AWS a lot of times. It's great when you get everything to work, but sometimes the learning curve can be steep, man. Because now, like you said, you're a network admin, you're a DBA 1 minute, you program it 1 minute, so to kind of get all that stuff to work, especially when you start doing larger jobs or big databases, it's kind of like, okay, is it the database? Is it the RCUs? The writes, the reads? Is it like you said? Which is weird to me. It's eating up all the IPs. The only time I saw that is when we were doing Microsoft reporting. They want us to use like 10,000 IPs. We were like, no, we're not doing that. Microsoft, we're not giving you 10,000 IPs.
10,000?
Yeah, because I guess report writer, they want to use your whole range to dynamically do these ports. So we
Right.
we like, nah, man, we need to be able to. So they kind of gave us a special thing so we can only lose, which I thought was too much, a couple hundred. And I was like, dude. So, but yeah, so how do you control that? And the cool thing with AWS, they got this thing where you use those products, it'll automatically sign your packets behind the scenes. So it's called Signature version 4. Every day, each day, AWS customers interacts confidently with secure AWS, making them billions of API calls. But behind the scenes, they're actually signing each individual packet. So inside of some custom programming, I was working with developments. You can use these to sign our packets, so we can validate if it's us and not a ATP or a bad guy trying to get to our network. So anytime we using the client, we're trying to sign our packets before it gets to the back end with this AWS signature for a signing process. And that's what AWS uses behind the scenes for their stuff. So we're trying to get our developers to start using it too. So that's the cool thing about AWS. Cool and bad thing. They give you a lot of stuff to use to secure it, but once again, it's more complex and you got to understand it. So that's part
Hmm.
of it.
Yeah, they say it's hard to do the right thing.
Yeah, for me though, like when I did the original, I think it's levels to it, right? You're doing the right thing, just not the right thing, right? So I think it's steps. I think a lot of times people try to do everything at one time, and it's just overload, right? So I kind of say, like the thing, what's the base, what's intermediate, and what's optimal. Right? A lot of
Right.
people try to jump to optimal, then it's just too much. So behind the scenes, once again, that's their device SDK. It's signing with the keys for their signature, and behind the scenes, that's what it's doing. It looks at your IAM, uh, short-term keys right there with STS. You assume the role. Once again, you assign your package, then it lets you know if it's successful, failure. If it doesn't see that signing from your client. So once again, I think that's a cool trick. High-level security, once again, part of the zero trust world.
Mm. Does so from my understanding of zero trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be the top of the line, highest level of security, right?
Yeah, but remember it's levels, right? It is if you get to optimal, but it takes a while to get there. Yeah, right. It's a
Mm.
framework, so a lot of times you're not going to get there to the top, right? So keep going though, keep going. It's
Right.
yes,
So
it's number one.
so well for companies that are trying to get like to that zero trust,
Mm-hmm.
are attackers also trying to figure out how to take advantage of that
Always.
framework?
Always, always. If it's on the internet, they know people trying to do it, so they're trying to figure out how to get around it. But really, zero trust was came about because of the hackers, right? We chasing them, so they were figuring out how to steal sessions in the background. People had too much privilege. People weren't using MFA, so that's how zero trust came in, really, because of the hackers. Right?
Yeah,
So.
and something that you said earlier, you were talking about security groups and how people can't move laterally, like they
Mm-hmm.
can't move from like in that same level of security, right?
Right, right.
So, and let's say if somebody like attacker gets in
Mm-hmm.
to, like an endpoint, right, or they get into like one of their into your system,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't move laterally, but you can stop them where they are. and somebody catches, they would just like maybe change change the password for like that account or something like that to be able to stop them in where they are, or how would you
Yeah.
go about stopping them?
If you what you got to remember, if they hack my account, I'm a low level, right? They're in the system. So the thing is, how do I escalate my privileges? If I'm on the system, can I upgrade me to a system admin? Right? If I get to a PAM table or to the password back in, I can see passwords, right, and be able to elevate my privileges, right? So you're trying to catch them before they move laterally or elevate their privilege. Right? Because the first thing they do as attackers, how do I get on your system? Right? If I'm a regular user and I got least privileges, maybe I'm just client service. I can just take a call and change something. That's not very good, right? But if I'm on there, and shout out to my man Gabe, his favorite thing is he attacks the Active Directory printer. Because a lot of times, if it's not set up right, he can become the printer admin. And with that, he can get on the domain controller, right? So you trying to fix. So they trying to figure out how to move, and you trying to figure out how to contain them.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I met one of the guys who set up like the printers in the office, and I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know it had like this whole
Oh.
security. Like he had to like sign up through like the cloud, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole big deal just to get connected to this printer.
Yeah, because they didn't set up. Long story short, we didn't. Well, I ain't gonna say we. When I was at the state, somebody didn't set up right. They found a governor printer and started sending him bad prints. You suck. Start coming out the printer. So people were like, "Oh, we gotta lock it down," right? Because originally it was kind of all open. Like, well, who's gonna attack a printer, right? But then people, shout out to Gabe, he uses that to get on their system to figure out how to start moving lateral. Because I think his thing he said was printer domain, and you can get that. Then somehow he pivoted to the Active Directory domain because they didn't have it locked down with least privilege. So he was talking about how he escalated his privilege, to climb higher things, and you can get to the database and the back end. So
Yeah, I know. Some companies, what they do is like if you try to switch over to another like user or something like that, or elevate,
yeah,
then it'll give you like an error, like, okay, this is being tracked or something like that. The
oh
security
yeah,
team told you not to do this or something.
mm-hmm.
Like, no, don't go into folders that you don't have access for.
Yeah,
So
100%.
yeah.
And us, it's called sudo inside Unix. If you switch to an admin user, it logs everything you do. Even if you're supposed to have it, we log on everything you do. Because if somebody took over my account and they did something bad, they could go back to the logs and figure out what they did. And two is they got scanners to go through the logs to figure out if you're trying to do something you shouldn't be doing, right? So they log everything when you're a privileged account.
All right.
Give me 1 second. But yeah, if you look on the screen, that's the standard 3-tier operating slide. That's actually for zero trust for AWS. The few things in there, if you see the WAF at the top, web application firewall. So they're looking for cross-site scripting. Most people don't run WAF because I think it's $3,000 a month, but that's one of the things we were talking about. KMS is a key management system. CloudWatch, for your apps, it should be logging everything to CloudWatch. The new things in there is the application load balancer. The API gateway, before you get to the database, is looking at your SQL statements to make sure you're not trying to append something to drop somewhere, and make sure you're not trying to do SQL injection. Even if you're a DBA, we're still watching that. So that's kind of the setup for zero trust for EC2 for a 3-tier architecture.
Mhm.
Okay, Macy just scan your S3 and your buckets just to make sure you don't have credit cards or social security numbers in there. We talk about at the optimal scanning, learning, and blocking, right? These are some of the services you can pay for. Once again, it'll look for stuff that shouldn't be in the clear and not encrypted to make sure nobody's emailing itself. And here we talk about the RDS, which is the database. Protect your sensitive data, align your security with the security policies. So if you see down there, it's the RDS, that could actually be Postgres, Oracle. But before you get there, right, it's replicating. And once again, we're only taking requests from the private subnet from your application subnet. We're not let you coming from the top. Or if you're a DBA, right, you're a VPN there, we're actually give your IP, and only certain IPs can get to that subnet, or a lot of times certain security groups, so we can control who gets to your database. Once again, deploying to the EC2, we talked about instances, who can get to what, and once again, logging everything, and two, making sure we're only using encrypted traffic to the database, who can see it, and the data written to it has to be encrypted. So once again, those are some of the zero trust stuff. The pillars protect the network, encrypted at rest, in transit, and in memory. Right, so if somebody dumps your memory, they would only see the couple of records you're actually working with. All the other records, once they ran through your program and did what they're supposed to do, we'd either erase them from memory or encrypt them in memory. One of the attacks years ago, people would do a memory dump, and in that memory dump, they would get social security numbers and credit card numbers, because the program, of course, is sucking that information up in there to do that type of work. But how do we protect it? Once again, if the bad guys get in there and dump
Let
that
me
memory.
ask PBO. So
Yeah.
let me ask you, for online, there's like, as a developer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And online there are a lot of tools that you can look up, like
Mm-hmm.
a JSON formatter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if a person, like, they say they don't store any data, right? But if a person were to, like, take some JSON and then put it in there, just see if it's like correct JSON, like some
Mm-hmm.
data, would they still be able to take that information if they say that they don't store any data?
They got to, well, they got to store it to operate, and hopefully at the end they would clear it. Because once you do
Mhm.
your program, you can clear your buffers, clear your memory, right?
All
That's
right.
secure programming. The question is, do they do that? As far as a risk assessment, whoever's checking your software, like where I used to work at the state, I looked at our software. So that's the question I would be asking the vendor. How much memory are you keeping? Are you flushing your memory? Or are you just keeping it in there? A lot of times, if it's too much memory, they write it to the disk, right? Are you writing stuff to the disk if the memory gets filled? Is that encrypted? Is that the bad stuff? That's part of your risk assessment you should be doing with for any software you're using. You should be doing a risk assessment. Most people don't, though, before the business. I'm just going to be honest. But in mature companies, you should be, those are questions you need to be asking those vendors so you know. Because you're guessing. I'm right there with my boss, like, are you guessing or did you ask them? Because too, if there's something happened and they didn't, and they told you no, theoretically you could sue them, right? Because they told you
Mm.
something that's different, right? So, but nah,
How
not
could
to
you
go ahead.
how could you find that out,
Found out what you
that they lied about deleting the data after
a
the
lot
operation?
a lot of times too. If you go back to the big hacks, a lot of the bigger security firms, they be going through their programs with scanners and stuff and start figuring them out. And a lot of times, if you look at Equifax, they got a call in front of Congress. They're not gonna lie in front of Congress, man. So that's
Mm.
when a lot of that stuff comes out. And a lot of times they know that they don't want to be held negligent. So a lot of times they're not gonna lie. They're just gonna say, this is how we do it. You're gonna use our software or not.
Mm.
All right. So chime in on that, Jim. You got anything to add to that? I think Jim
No,
worked.
I'm good right now. I'm just
All right. All right. Let me look at some of the people need to be working. 8.5. Let's see. Oh, that's cool. Shout out to the microsegment by Brooks. You like it, I guess, is the question. Yep, reduce the attack surface 100%. Once again, I usually do AWS once again with their security groups, but once again, Azure has their version of that. So let's keep rolling. Let me hit a couple more slides real quick. About wrapping it up. Protect networks. Once again, you got the elastic bean socks with the EC2. The load balancers is in the public. The LB should be left in the public segment to provide a single point of inbound traffic. Network address gateways in the public subnet for routing. I think I showed a picture of that. So that's the NAT gateway to get to the internet. The rest of your EC2s are in the private. So once again, when the traffic comes through the internet, the only way it gets to your EC2s and your databases It's one way in. So now we can scan the network traffic. We can control the flow of our network traffic. That's real big. Comes in the ALB. Then the ALB is going to pass it to the subnet with different EC2s. Then once again, from the application level, it's in the private, it's going to pass it to the RDS. Once again, we can log it, track it, scan it, and make sure we can control it, right? East and west, we trying to control our east and west traffic, right? Like these EC2s are on the subnet, but they can't talk to each other, right? They can only talk to the database or to the ALB, right? A lot of times once the hacker got in there, right, he could get to everything on that particular subnet. Now within the subgroup, that security group can only talk to the ALB, or the security group can only talk to the RDS, right? Once again, too, we give them the least privilege of what it can talk to and what it can change and what it cannot. So data at rest, you need to set up your database for independently enable encryption. Most of the database now, encryption actually comes by default because so many bad things are happening.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Protect data in transit, same TLS, X509. Shout out to Amazon's got their certificate manager, so it's easy to generate certificates. I have a PBO certificate. It was pretty cheap, so you can generate your own certificate. So once again, where it's at, a lot of times you terminate your certificate at the ALB for encryption. Your route DNS comes from Route 53. That usually has your www.pbosecurity.com. I got my own DNS name at the Route 53. Right, so that's kind of how it flows through. Zero trust security best practices. You should allow traffic to your RDS database from your instances only. Therefore, make sure your security groups allow traffic only from auto-scaling security groups, and there is no additional entries. Right. Once again, what's your site or IP range? What's your custom range? Once again, coming from the RDS console, you can say what site or IP range can get to your database.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you, PBO? So
Always.
when
Go
I
ahead.
was going through like learning about like the subnets and VPCs, I was learning about how to get access, how a private subnet can get access to like the internet, and it's through something called like an NAT gateway.
Yeah, just set it up there. Yeah, the NAT gateway. Here, I show you.
Yeah, so
It's in a picture. Keep going.
yeah, I
There
was
it
gonna
is,
say,
right there in the public. The NAT gateway is going to point to your internet gateway right there. Go ahead. Yeah, keep
yeah, I
going.
was gonna say, can you kind of explain that a little bit for me? Because I'm like, this is all new to me. I'm learning about like the
Right.
networking side of things. Can you like explain to me like how a NAT gateway or NAT gateway works?
Yeah. At a high level, and we can talk about that. The NAT gateway is basically ingress and egress from your route table where your traffic can get to.
Mm.
Since you want your EC2s, which are your Windows and Linux and private subnets, they can't get to the internet, right? So you put your NAT gateway right there in the public, and your route gateway from your EC2s actually point to your NAT gateway. Then the NAT gateway route actually goes to your internet. So a lot of times too is when people from the internet scan, they're just gonna get your NAT gateway IP address. They're never gonna get your OS, to your Linux or Windows. So the NAT gateway, sometimes they call it a proxy. It actually blocks the outside internet from getting IPs from these EC2 boxes, which are your Windows OS, and that's where you have your SSN, your credit card numbers. So basically,
Okay.
it just points to the gateway, points to your internet gateway. I think it's network access translation, right? The translation
Mm.
is translating to get to the internet. Then when they come is, once again, it gets your NAT gateway. It doesn't get your EC2 instances, or more importantly, it doesn't get your RDS IP addresses. So.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So in the NAT gateway only does the ingress and degress, right?
Yeah,
So it only sends the information in and out, but it
right.
doesn't actually connect to the public can't connect to your actual like EC2 instances. They can't
No,
connect to like the virtual machines or
no,
anything.
no,
It
no.
only can connect to the NAT gateway,
Yeah, and your NAT gateway.
which is separate from your actual virtual machine.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So yep. And behind the scenes is actually a multi-virtual machine. So the NAT gateway behind the scenes, Amazon is handling that. So if you get a lot of traffic behind the scenes, it's actually spinning up more EC2s that are running in that gateway, but you don't have to worry about it. Right? That's the beauty of it. It's gonna handle that traffic for you. And to be honest, I'm a Dewan Lightfoot and network, bro. You get a little beyond me. I got basic networking skills. I can go live. So yeah, that's the cool thing is, like I said, I don't do especially networking at that level. Those are actually network admins a lot, man. To be honest, so
Mm-hmm.
I know enough to be dangerous. So once again, when your users come in, they come into your public subnet. Then here the EC2 will let you RDS inside Amazon RDS. And at the bottom, you see the security group it allows: ICP, SSH, HTTP. Then right there, it only allows 3306 from the EC2 instance can only get to that RDS. Right. So if your admins here, they're SSH into this hard EC2, then that hard EC2 will let them do admin work on that RDS. A lot of times I tell people just go through the console on MFA because if you put this there, the hackers can get through it, right? But of course, you got MFA. A lot of times users coming in, especially if they VPN, I'm only letting certain IP addresses get to that EC2. The IP address of those admins can only get to that EC2s that can do work on our RDS, right? So that's how you lock it down. But once again, those are the security groups at the bottom talking to each other. Shout out, this is B2B's favorite thing, WordPress. Right there, WordPress.
Right.
So that's the WordPress they were talking about. So the new
Yeah,
thing,
man,
hey, go ahead.
I mean, WordPress makes it so much more easy to just put up a website.
It does, man. They
Right.
had more issues though, but but you are when you the biggest thing on the block, the hacker's gonna try to figure out the biggest thing on the block. So
Yeah, man. But I remember somebody was arguing me down about like WordPress and oh, the WordPress isn't actual development. And I'm like, man, you gonna spend all day and night trying to build your own website for your own business.
what
Or
would
if
you
you were
do?
trying to like build a website for like other businesses, you would take months on end to be able to build a website.
Yeah, why would you do that, man? Unless you building something super custom, man. You would use a WordPress. There's some other ones out there we
A
looked at, but
Wix or something like that,
yeah, yeah,
Shopify, right?
yeah, yeah.
Maybe something like that.
Why would you recreate the wheel, man? That's crazy, man. Even if
Yeah, man.
you can add your own web pages and customize, but why would you start from scratch?
Mhm.
The new thing, and we were talking about secure is the old way is VPN in, then AWS did it. They got their AWS client VPN. Now AWS verified access is zero trust. They just want you to be able to connect from the internet and not even have to worry about VPN. I don't know anybody not using a VPN. Now, sometimes we go in, but most companies you're gonna do a VPN. Then I know you get on the subnets and I can control your IPs, but people really want to get to we just use the internet. Why are we using VPN? That's more complexity. Now the bad guys are attacking VPNs left and right. So why don't you
Yeah.
just use the base internet? And we'll talk a little bit about AWS Verified. Like I said, I don't think I've ever actually used it in practice, but that's what they're actually pushing for AWS to get away from VPNs. Here I'm gonna run this super quick video with them talking about that particular tool because I really wasn't super familiar with it. So I found some AWS. Shout out to them.
AWS Verified Access is a connectivity service that helps enterprises secure users' access to corporate applications. It removes the need for a VPN, which simplifies the connectivity experience for end users and reduces the management complexity for IT administrators. Built on AWS Zero Trust guiding principles, Verified Access maintains a high level of security by validating each and every application request before it grants access. IT administrators can use this service to build a unified set of fine-grained policies in minutes. These Policies define a user's ability to access each application and verify each access request in real time, reducing the risks associated with remote connectivity. Helping verify users against specific security requirements, Verified Access integrates with the major third-party identity and device security services that corporations already trust. Set up simplified and secure global connectivity today with AWS Verified Access.
So that's what they're pushing, their version of that. Really, it's got a lot of VPN qualities just straight off the internet, which I thought was interesting. I don't know anybody doing that in real life, though. But, once again, I think we talked about optimal and the top tier of zero trust, and I think they're giving you tools to lay that out. That's part of that. And this one, let's see, this other one. VPC Lattice is kind of what B2B is talking about. It's a fully managed application network service you use to connect, secure, and monitor services. You can use VPC Lattice as a single virtual private cloud across multiple VPCs. Modern applications uses microservices such as HTTP, API, databases, and REST. And like B2B talk about, a lot of times you have so many microservices and app services running. This kind of helps you control your traffic for those microservices and kind of lock those up. So you see the client here, you go through Lattice VPC, and it tells you what services you can go to, what accounts you can go through, what's your resource configuration. So that's something I've been kind of trying to figure out, dig into, because at larger companies, they usually have so many microservices running around and connecting. How do you verify what can see the what? How can you lock it down a lot of times? A lot of times it's like, if this calls it, it must be able to call it, right? Or it calls it with some credentials, but a lot of times we need more than that. Just because you get to the database, what tables, what columns, what resources. Two is, what region are you in? Are you in a proper location to call these resources? So VPC Lattice is like a service network, talking about those service calls and kind of managing those. So I'm actually going to do a second video on that, just to kind of get a little more comfortable with that, because that's something new they brought out, controlling those microservices call. Because I think now we got too many services calling services so a lot of times. So did you want to chime in on that before the video? So that's just something that kind of jumped out at me.
Yeah, man. I mean, going back to like the VPN thing that you were sharing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I realized that I've been like VPNs are. I think it's a good idea for like when you're working remotely,
Mm-hmm.
but then it does make things slower on your
Mm-hmm.
computer. I noticed that. Like when I get on a call and I'm connected to a VPN, but I have to share like my screen or something like that, I almost can never actually have the call on the Teams because the VPN slows things down so tremendously, right?
Yeah.
But then I had a question about how does it work when, like, and this is another networking thing, right? Because I'm not really into the
Mm-hmm.
networking side all the way yet. Is when you are in the office and you're connected to their Wi-Fi or their like intranet, right? Their system,
Mm-hmm.
and you no longer need the VPN. Why is that the VPN will actually break your connection when you're connected to the like
Yeah.
company's Wi-Fi?
A lot of times, for my personal knowledge, a lot of times when you connect into a VPN, it gives you a certain subnet. So when you're in the office, that subnet might be being blocked because it's internal to the office and not you being remote. Because when you
Okay.
dial in remote, they make assumptions that you're remote, you're going to get in on this particular subnet, and these things are going to talk. Then when you're in the office, that's not actually true a lot.
hmm
That's what I've seen a
So
lot.
so it's blocked because I know that I was like, I'm connected to the VPN. I walk into the office. Now I got to disconnect from the VPN in order to use my computer again.
Yeah, like we talked about, when you're in the office, you get certain IPs, and how it routes is different than when you're at home.
Right. Okay.
Because we at the state That used to happen to us, and they had to reconfigure it. So now when you were in the office, you could connect, but it took them forever to figure that out. I just remember them talking about it. So it might be kind of maturity of your company and that's where it was for decades too, though. When I was remotely, and if I came in the office and I tried to connect VPN, it would break stuff. Because once again, it makes assumptions. And two, if you look at home, if you look at your IP address and you go in, your DHCP is probably different for what IP address, and that's probably what subnet you're on, depending on your IP address. And obviously, that routing is different if you're remote compared if you're in the office. So.
Okay.
But once again, you touched on my. I'm like you, B2B. I'm more of a developer, man.
You're right.
Yeah, that's one thing I've never really done professionally. Like I've been a DBA programmer, web admin. I've never been an SA, and I've never done networking, man. I make assumption that stuff is set up for me to use it right as a developer. Right, I'll be pinging on my network guys. Hey, this is what I'm trying to do, man. What's going on with y'all? So now you need to get with the Wine Lightfoot or Network Bruh or those guys, man.
Y'all need to do a collaboration, man. I haven't seen. I think DeJuan made a return, right, to YouTube.
I don't know. He was working big. I think he's at AWS making big money. So I think I did see a couple videos, but I haven't seen a lot. I know Network Bruh is kind of coming back, and he does Cisco. I think he's tier 3. I think DeJuan might be a little higher than him, but now that networking game, man, there's assumptions when I log in, B2B. That I need to be working. I don't right. So
man, we had to call in like it's interesting. Like when you had to call in AWS, like okay, I need something done, and I'm like, you got to call in the expert or somebody who actually works there. It's just like totally different. Like you can never just call them if you're a regular person, but if you like work for a company, they have a direct phone call.
Because you spending that money, man. The company I used to work for. We spend a certain level call, man. We put this call in. We need to call back in 6 hours, but we had to pay for that, man. So I be using it. I be like, hey, man, I think we need to get AWS on the horn, or I'm trying to do this. But I'm gonna send you that stuff on that developer queue, man. It was interesting, and once again, he was doing something specifically for Glue.
Mm-hmm.
So, but now you need AWS because. Unless you got a big team, and AWS has got so many services, and you can get yourself easily like kind of wrapped up, man. And it's like, okay, you didn't set up this, or it could be something. Oh, you close. You just need to do this one little thing, and you good, man. It's just so much there, man. Especially what you're doing by the time you get the database, the VPC, the EC2. I don't know if y'all doing Lambda with the serverless. It's a lot of stuff. Then you get the Glue. I don't know if you're doing Kinesis streams. Man, there's a lot of stuff out there, man. I'm like, so just trying to keep it all straight, man. It's just like,
man, you got the RDS and having to look to see how many runs your job is going for, and it's so many different things.
Oh man, I've been studying for the I just passed the AWS developer, man. It just they were talking about Glue.
Man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. They were talking about Glue and some of this stuff. Actually, I'm thinking about taking the data engineering one, man. I've been perusing that one. So and that's
you just like my dad, man, just getting certification just because.
Not because, man, as a compliance, I got to be able to talk to you, man. If I don't understand it, I can't have conversations, right? A lot of times, it's like, okay, are we NIST 800-53? If I don't know what a Glue is, I don't understand. I don't know if you use a data brew. If I don't understand VPCs, how can I talk about compliance if I don't understand the individual components, man? Especially at my level. So that's the reason I do it, man. And the cool thing is I've done most of that in my career for different sections of it. So it's not foreign. It's just AWS,
I might get to that. I might get to that point, man. I just getting more and more certifications as time goes on.
For me too, is the AWS build on top of each other. So if you get I got the associate architect, that's 70% of the developer. Once I got that was 80% of the sysops. Right now, when I look at data engineering, all those three is like 70% of data engineering, because before you set up, like you talk about, you got to understand VPC, you got to understand EC2. I understand all that now, so I got to work on the glue, kinesis, data sync, just the
Yeah, I heard
services
of data
for
sync.
for data. So for data engineering, and I did a lot of that, when it was data warehousing. So for me, it's like, okay, I finally have to learn like 15 or 20% new knowledge, right? So it
Yeah,
makes a lot.
I did a workshop for AWS SageMaker, and because they were like, at my company, they were like, oh yeah, to learn about SageMaker, because to learn
Yeah,
about AI and
yeah.
LLMs and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, well, it's interesting, right? Something new.
Yeah,
Um,
they actually got
mhm.
AWS AI practitioner and the associate is machine learning. I'm thinking about doing those two because we talk about so much about AI. I'm like, man, I need to figure out what those services are. But go ahead. So I'm thinking about taking those two certs, man.
Right. And I'm like, man, I think what it is you need to get a few wins first to level yourself up to be able to, like how you're saying, like build upon
Mm-hmm.
your already existing knowledge base,
Mm-hmm.
and then use that to get higher and higher levels of certifications.
Yeah, and like I said, it's easy. I mean, I wouldn't say it's easy, but you got the background now. So I mean, once you look at a VPC, you know what those are. Then you know from associate architect what those are, and then you're a developer, so it's just getting comfortable with their development environment. And you done data engineering, so it's just a nomenclature of what that is. So I don't. That's all in your realm. Hold on, real
Mhm.
quick. If you look on there, that's the lambdas, the serverless zero trust. So at the top, cognito. From there is where you get your username, password. If you're doing SAML or anything, API gateway, your lambda function, that lattice right there, like we were talking about, that's controlling your traffic of what microservices you're going through. You see, one is using Lambda, one is using Fargate, which is their version of Docker, and their EKS is their version of Kubernetes. So each one of those services is being called Lattice, directs it to it, checks the traffic, checks if you should see it, check what you can see on that particular call, then it sends the traffic to it. All right. So I think right now we're a little not least privileges, because a lot of times if you get through your first BBC, whatever you can call and get to the back end, they just let you go back there and call it, right? So I don't think we validate. We validated here, but once again, in those zero trust, we need to be validate every call, every transaction in each one of those particular services. And I think from the traditional microservices, we're not doing that. And I think that's what VPC lattices add to the game. So once again, at the high level, that's zero trust coming. Once again, from an AWS perspective, I put the link at the top for the 1835. It in there, it talks about all the technology, Okta, AWS, Azure, Google. It talked about everything in there. Shout out to Who's Like the Guy. Out there you go, man. Moving to G. I'm not a big Google guy, but they're making a move. I'm trying to definitely get my Azure skills up. I think it's going to be a multi-cloud. Once again, I'm trying to get my AWS a little tighter before I start doing Azure.
Yeah, I started out with Google,
Uh,
and now I'm learning about AWS, and I'm like, man, it's like similar but different at the
yeah,
same time. It's like similar
Yeah.
but different.
yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing Azure for the past few years, and I got totally away from AWS, and now I'm having a requirement to step into AWS, and I'm like, I'm tired.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, but
yeah.
I
Yeah, I
haven't.
forget.
Yeah, it seems like Azure and AWS are the big ones, at least in my environments. And I have a friend who's it works in the Google space, so Google Cloud, and he's an architect, but I just haven't had a need for it, so I'm not going to worry about it until it becomes a requirement.
Yeah, that's,
Right.
yeah. I just said I was going to learn one, so the first one I kind of picked up was AWS and kind of drilled into that one. And like I said, got a few certs so I can kind of understand it. And like I said, I think I'm a maybe it's like B2B, maybe do a little data engineering since I'm from a data warehouse background, so I can actually
Hmm.
write a couple lines of code in Python and insert it into like you said, do Glue and insert that into Redshift, which I guess is their data warehousing database on AWS. Make me some dimensions and some some data warehouse, some data marks in there. just kind of figure out how they go. And once again, they seem like Glue is one of them widely used tools. Do you use their notebook or their I think it was called a Glue? You use Glue Studio? You don't have to answer that if you want to, B2B. You can always pass. I'm gonna try to get that Glue Studio and try to do a few things with it.
I've just used AWS Glue. I never used Glue Studio.
Okay, yeah. So that one guy I was listening to, he's talking about, oh, Glue Studio is the best. I'm like, okay, let me check it out and create some batches and let them run and change them over to Parquet and see if I can do some Redshift in there just to get it. If anybody got any questions in the chat, just put them in the chat. Or if you want to come up, I'll drop the mic. Definitely shout out to my man B2B and Jim for joining me.
Yeah, man. PBO, I've been thinking, man. I have been trying to get back into making more content for YouTube, and got some new mics and everything. So I'm trying to do more talks with like professionals who are like in the tech space about like their specific subject matter expert, like whatever subject they're an expert in, and got connected with some people over there at Google, LexisNexis, like some data scientists over there, and trying to see if I can get you on for a virtual talk.
Hey, you know me. Just reach out to me on LinkedIn, man. Anything you need, I'm a dude, man. You know, I can talk anytime. So, yeah, anytime you need me, man, just pay me. I'm easily found.
And then everybody's trying to get me into golfing.
Oh, I love it. I quit golf a couple years ago. I played for about 10 years. My handicap was like about 15 when I used to play a lot.
Yeah, I was talking about you, man. One of the guys, he's from Germany, and he golfs all the time. And I was telling him the only person I know who golfs is PBO. He used to have the nickname Chunky Woods.
Yeah, I used to be killing them, man. I might come out of retirement, man. I used to play a lot. Well, long story short, I used to have business shit probably 15 years ago. And my partner was like, hey, you got to golf, man. That's how we be networking, man. So that's one reason I got, start playing and kind of working on my game.
Yeah, man. Just as networking is just as important as building your technical skills.
Oh, actually, I think it's more sometimes. Man, I see people get hooked up. I'm like, that dude's not very good.
Yeah. But I mean, you do something for so many years, you end up becoming good at it, right?
Yeah, most definitely. You just kind of work on your craft. Why can't I see that? But yeah, let's see, I'll do that. I'll figure that out later. Once again, if anybody got more questions, put them in the chat. We're gonna probably shut it on down in a minute. What time is it? I'm struggling.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Jamar.
I appreciate you.
Now, I was just going to say here, I did that beta for the AAISM, the Advanced IA Security Management, and it's funny because, I can't remember, we were talking about like different certifications and whatnot. The longer I do this stuff, the more certifications I find I need. Well, one of them, we had this talk before. It's just like, hey, doing defense contracting. It's like, hey, you wanted a landing spot, right? Something goes away. Hey, I do GRC or I do engineering or whatever. Yeah. So it was great with that 8570 structure, whatever they named it nowadays. But over the last few years, it's like, man, I was doing cloud security, but a lot of the infrastructure people, they were leaving it alone, right? And I said, well, it's going to move pretty quickly. and all of a sudden, if you didn't have the cloud skills, well, we don't need you. We can just outsource this, right? So you had to be real careful with that. So I find now you need, besides being security, now you need to have some cloud skills, some type of agnostic and a vendor cert. And then AI is really moving big, right? And I'm like looking, well, if my job goes away, right, and then you got a code, but then the guy writing the code is a bot.
No, that's
true. So the one nice thing.
Oh shit.
Oh, there you go. Plus with GRC, you pretty much, like you were saying, it's like you get involved with everything, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, what's this? As a Navy validator, Marine Corps verifier, and it's like you look at stuff, what is this, right? You say you have to know network, operations, engineering, application, DevOps. You got to know a little bit about everything, so it really kind of helps. And yeah, I'm looking at it AI. It's yeah, it's going to hit. So that's like the next thing I think people really need to, on the security team, need to be involved with and get some credentials, because I think it'll really help.
Right.
But it's not that
Yeah.
hard.
Actually,
It's not that hard because you've got the underlying, AI technology, and it's new and it's evolving. But a lot of the stuff, right? They talk about governance, right? They talk about the risk, right? So it's a different set of risk with IA, and there's frameworks out there you can now look at. So it's not impossible. It's just something else, and I enjoy it. I hope.
right. Yeah, man. Um, and to that point, right, about certifications, I mean, sometimes people will let you know that new opportunities are coming up.
Oh,
So,
100%.
like, if you're learning about like a new technology or something like that, they say, well, in a few years, right after we finish this project, there may be another team that may pique your interest,
Yeah.
right? That may come up that may pique your interest more so than what I have on my team right now,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So, like, one of my managers told me that they were like, oh yeah, in a few years after this is done, then you can potentially move around the company. And I think certifications is one of those good ways of kind of showing that you take the initiative to learn new technologies, but then also makes you more marketable, right? When you
Well,
already have the job.
Well, there's that
Yeah.
aspect, but I looked at it, it's like, hey, if I'm going to be forced to study, do labs, to read, I'm going to learn something. So it's not like,
Mhm.
I say, oh, I got the certification. Oh, it's like wonderful, etc. It's the experience, hey, I learned something new. I spent the time. So now I can
Mhm.
kind of use it. So that's what I feel is valuable.
Right. For your own knowledge, right? To
Yeah.
Oh,
expand
absolutely.
expound upon. Right.
Hey, hey.
Yeah, and plus security just jumping in there and when
Yeah.
someone's talking a lot of you know what a lot of BS, you can say, oh, that's not the way it really works. So and
Mhm.
PBO, you've been doing a GRC for so long, it's just so diverse, right? The things that
Oh,
come out
yeah.
of left field,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
you start getting into and you get different so like right now I've got people like, well, you don't know OT, you don't come from the OT background. It's like, look, I dealt with weapon, like IT on a nuclear submarine or weapon systems. It's not that hard, or a shop floor network for manufacture for drug manufacturing. Same type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, who? So,
That,
oh, just going. Oh, go. I'm
Oh,
sorry. I'm just coming in. I don't mean. I'm just coming in. He knows who I am, so sure. Just been a minute since I've been on here. So
what's going on,
is
man?
it is
good
Jupiter?
evening. Yeah, yep. This is me. Yeah.
Yo,
So
man.
I'm looking at the younger man with the glasses. So what I find in corporate and me and yeah, old dude up there, we've been talking back and forth. In the cyber world, and especially in this corporate thing, it is so much of an ego and gatekeeping going on. So much. It's like, even at my previous job, it's like they think, you know, IT. It's like when you say IT, that's a broad term. Like what is IT can mean anything. And it's like it's an ego. It's a lot of ego things going on in the cyber world. But I want to ask you guys this question. Speaking of GCRC, has any of you guys heard of Vanta?
Yeah.
Vanta, like a
Yes,
technology?
yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm just now looking at it. It's like this is making GCRC so much easier, so
Yeah.
much easier.
Yeah. I
That's
was
just my
just
opinion.
Yeah, I was just looking at this a couple months ago, and one of the things I do is I advise a lot of mid-tier small business type clients, and it's like if they had unlimited budgets and unlimited staff, I would say, well, Archer or ServiceNow GRC, it's like, okay, You know, you got to hire a bunch of people, and hopefully in a year you'll get some value from it. But you know, they're very complex systems, you know, ecosystems. But for just to get something, though, you know, to hit the ground running, that's cost effective, and that's the big thing. You know, when you talk cybersecurity or GRC systems, you know, ka-ching, you know, so you got to, that's why a lot of people, you know, I say, well, let's see, maybe we'll just use spreadsheets. We'll just use
Oh
templates. We'll use Word
God.
documents because it gets so expensive. And GRC, I think we had this discussion right up the front. You know, I posted something, I posted an article. It's people look at, oh, GRC is a business driver, right? But then they look at it as a cost center, right? When push comes to shove, it's a cost center, right? That's why GRC, everything fits into these nice little silos within IT and security. But GRC is kind of like this oddball, and you're always the people complaining about something because people aren't, you know, producing the right documentation, the right artifacts, aren't meeting the controls, etc. So that's the tough part is how you sell this, you know, for a business opportunity and there's a return on investment.
Yeah, and another thing with piggyback, I dealt with a previous company. They had cloud, and it's like, look, in order to put GCRC, like even for any security, I tell somebody, look, you need to know how the network or how the house is built before we can even secure it. Because I'm an army guy, so I need to know the whole area for what I'm going to fortify, what I'm going to do here, and GCRC is put here and there. And then when you put these vulnerability scanners like Nessus or whatever you want to use, you know, they come hand in hand, and it's like, and it was when you bring up the problems with these controls, like this is where the ego comes at. Well, we don't think we should care that. Well, you don't know, and that's just my spiel on my take.
No, that's that's real a lot of times. And for me, I'm disappointed in my life. I gave you the risk. It's yours to do what you want to do with it, man. And when I was younger, I used to be like trying to plant my flag, but hey, I told the business owners they own the risk. They want to accept the risk. I'm cool with it, man. Now, when we get hacked, I'm gonna pull up that email I sent you.
Oh yeah, as
So
long as I get paid and that was on record and an email, you gotta protect yourself at all times and
yes,
document,
so yeah,
document.
so I'm just when I was younger, I'd be like, that's horrible security. Now I'm like, hey, that's the risk, man. And it tells you if you do Nexus or Rapid 7, it tells you if it's a 10 or a 2 or a high, medium, low. If it's a 10 and you want to accept it, I'm cool with it. I
Yeah,
don't think
except
we should. I don't think we should, but hey, if you like it, I love it. Go ahead, Jim.
I was going to say if it's a 4-day weekend, that 10 becomes a 2 pretty quickly. Let's
Yeah,
downgrade it.
yeah, so that's got it. So for me, it's kind of like, hey, I just give people risk now.
Yeah,
So
I remember this one instance. I was like, "Hey, look, this scam pulled out your banner on Linux." I'm like, "Aren't you going to change that or get rid of it?" Like, he's like, "Well, what's the banner?" I was like, "Hey, well, your banner just tells you what version your Linux system is." If I was a hacker and I saw it, I was like, "Oh, we can go to town, shoot,
yeah.
put up." So
That makes it a lot easier when I know the version, especially the point version of it. 14.1.2. Then, like you said, I can go look up the CVEs for that particular version.
yeah, and I guess and like with cron tab with scheduler, he didn't even know what that was, but you know.
Oh
And I
yeah.
guess I'm speaking with the other company. He knows what it went like. Oh, make a list of what's the priority. I'm like, look, Nessus just gave me the list. You do it, and this is where that separated the duties come in. You know, I guess some admins don't want to do their work, but now you got cloud. You can just do the work for them. Well, I get in so many words.
No, that's true. Like I said, different problems, different issues, and the cloud brings it helps a lot, but it brings a lot more complexity to them. Like, now what we doing? It's like, okay, now how we doing it? If we can figure that right, I guess if we all learn it, we're gonna learn together. So, go ahead, Jupiter. I'm gonna give you the last things. I'm about to shut it down, Jupiter. What you want
Nah,
to do?
man, that was it, man. I just missed coming back on here. I haven't
No,
been
I
on here in
appreciate you, man.
a minute, so I'm dropping off too, man.
I
Godspeed.
appreciate you. Go ahead, Jim. I'm gonna let Jim get his last remarks before I shut it down.
Oh, nothing. I'm tired, man. I just
I am
yeah,
too.
yeah. Shut it down. We love you, PBO. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. You get more energy than I do. You know, it's like
um,
doing this stuff. That's a lot of time. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you. What you got before the bills?
Yes, sir. Just like it,
I
just like
sent.
everybody else says, I really do appreciate you
Okay.
coming up here, teaching us some more things. I have some more questions about AWS and Glue, and I definitely look forward to seeing more of the streams and talking with you. And yeah, man, just appreciate you.
All right. Just reach out to me, man. Just ping me on LinkedIn when we can set up something when you want to interview me. Just
Okay.
find me a slot. We can definitely make that happen. Once again, I appreciate everybody for showing up. I'm out. Everybody have a great hump day. Like you said, I'm about to go to bed. I'm running out of gas, but I would appreciate everybody for coming up. I'm out.